Hello Year 9s and Happy New Year. I hope that you're all well and have enjoyed your Christmas holidays. This term we're all going to be focusing in on a new project with the theme of portraits. So the first thing that I'm hoping is that you've all prepared and you've got a nice sharp pencil, you've got a rubber, you've got 2 pieces of plain paper and an image of a portrait that you've either printed out or you've got an image on your phone or a mirror that you can then draw your own face. The first thing we're going to do though is we're going to learn and focus on how and where the proportions of the face, so that's looking at where your facial features go when you're drawing a portrait. So the first thing I'd like you all to do is we're just going to sketch out a nice circle in kind of the top part of your page. So I'm going to sketch out a circle. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle, just roughly about that size. Okay, then we're going to give that circle a bit of a beard to just try and get that kind of almost generic face shape. Now obviously when we're going to draw our portraits that we're looking at, that face shape that we then decide to choose might change depending on whether they have a heart-shaped face, whether it's more circular, more rounded, and then we will adjust it accordingly too. But right now we're just going to go for the generic shape, and then we can then rub out that circle line there and then just shore up our edges. Okay, so we should kind of all roughly now have a nice generic face shape that kind of fills the A4 page. Now, we're now going to look at where are the proportions of the face are. So looking at the proportions of the face is looking at where the facial features, where our eyes, nose and mouth roughly go. So the first thing that we know about a face is that it's symmetrical. So the first thing we can do is put in that line that goes down the middle of the face, that we know then that we have eyes either side, that the nose will then go along that line and also goes through the lips. So it's that kind of understanding of the symmetrical face, that we have things on either side. When we're looking at eyes, a lot of people start to draw their eyes up here because when they're drawing their face, they think that that face shape drawn is actually from this point here on our picture, where actually it's all the way up here. So if you think that's our face shape, underneath that hair is all of that. So our eyes are actually halfway down the face. So it's kind of halfway between that point and that point. So what we're going to do is then we're going to draw a line just going across here, which is then halfway. Then our nose, so the bottom of our nose is then again halfway from this point to this point. So I'm going to then draw another line just going across there, halfway. And our lips, our mouth, is a quarter of this, from this point to this point here. So then I'm going to draw another line just along here, which is a quarter. Now that is the placement of our eyes, our nose, and our mouth. Okay, so that means that then we know that our eyes is on this one, our nose and our mouth, and we are all symmetrical. Our ears are actually the same distance from this line to this line. So we're just going to roughly put in where our ears are going to be, kind of that just very rough shape here. We can roughly say where our eyes are going to be. So I'm not expecting you to draw them, just kind of 2 dashes to roughly say they're there. Our nose again is here, and then our mouth would be about there. Our hair, because we now know that this is from the top of our head to this point here, we can then just put in a very kind of quick, kind of almost Lego man hairline that then comes in there. So from looking at this with our proportions, we now know that when we start any other portrait, we know that we can do our symmetrical line, and then our eyes are halfway, our nose is halfway again, and then our mouth is a quarter from there, and our ears are from our eyes to our nose line. So that's our first initial kind of task this morning, understanding where everything proportions go on the face. What I'd like you then to do is just do a very quick title saying proportions of the face, And you might want to do that in a nice kind of nice typography, maybe do it in black pen. It's completely up to you. So that is your first task this morning, understanding where all the facial features go. And I don't want any other things drawn on it, just apart from that, so that then that is a reference for us for when we now do and attempt our tonal portrait. So please do not draw on this one now. We're now going to then go onto our second piece of paper. So what you should have now is your second piece of paper and hopefully an image that you can see of a portrait. So we're now going to draw that initial shape again here, but on our new bits of paper. So we're going to draw our circle. Again, please make sure that you are filling the page. Don't want any tiny little drawings. Try and fill that A4 page. So a circle, and then again about halfway down we give it a beard. So following those lines down, bringing it around. Okay, so then I can then with my rubber rub out this line in here. Now this is the bit where all of you need to look at the picture of the person that you're drawing. So now I'm going to look at and actually look at the face shape. Now obviously I can't really see much because of the hair, but I can see this part here where it's a bit more pointed than what I've drawn. So I can now look and go, well actually she comes down a little bit more straight around here. It kind of almost comes into here, and then she's more of it round in here. So I'm just gonna then, just with my pencil, using that as a guideline, just change that face shape to what I can see, okay? So that's what you need to be doing. You need to look at the image that you're drawing and then change the face shape to what it is you see. Now then we can then put in our guidelines, so we know that it's symmetrical, and we know our eyes are halfway down from this point to this point. So I'm then going to put my line in there. Nose again, halfway to this point, and then mouth is a quarter. All right. So there I've got my initial steps all sketched in very, very lightly. Don't go in pressing hard, because this is the point where it's the most important part of the drawing, because we're going to try and get the proportions right, get everything in the placement right, and just get the initial sketch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put in where the hair is, because for me that hair is quite important, because it means that I can't actually see where the neck is. You can see that hair's covered. If you are drawing a neck, please we don't have little bobble heads. Your neck is probably coming off and around about this size here. So if you have and can see a neck, you're approximately going around that size. Mine, however, is covered by the hair, so I'm just going to now use, thinking about how far it comes down, just using my pencil very lightly, and just going to be sketching roughly in very lightly where that hair comes in. So that hair is actually, for me, going to come in around here, and then again that kind of comes almost down and around here. And you can see I'm not putting in any kind of big, kind of looking at the texture of the hair at the moment. All I'm doing is just roughly helping myself out by kind of going, well, actually, my face is almost framed and covered by the hair. So I'm actually looking at my shape of the face is actually this, because the rest is covered by that hair, okay? Then I'm just going to put in roughly where the eyes are, so I can see that that eye goes right up to that hairline here. And then my other eye, again, it's just this point and just very lightly to there. So I can see where they're going to go. All right, I'm not going to attempt to draw them. I'm just placing them in. Now, I am going to now go for my nose. So if you think about it, that line goes through my face like so. Now, when you're going for a nose, we'll kind of use like a bubble effect. So why I'm doing this is that through this cross here, if you do very lightly a medium bubble, and then 2 smaller bubbles, that you kind of have something like this. And then you just then go around, pressing harder around those bits, follow that line in around in here, and then bring that line underneath. And then that kind of gives you that nose kind of shape. So I'm going to show you that again. So if you think that's where your line crosses through, for where your nose is, you've got your medium sized bubble, and your 2 smaller bubbles. So you want to follow the edge of your pencil with those, follow in and around, don't join it up, then bring that one ever so slightly around and under, and then that is your nose shape there. All right. Now, a lot of people will then want to go, oh, actually, well, then it goes up like this. Don't draw the lines. Now, obviously, we all know that there is in the nose here, kind of those lines and bridges here, but we will do that later in next week's lesson when we're adding tone. Currently, I just want you to make sure you're kind of getting the shape and the proportions in correctly at the moment. So you should have your little nose bit there. If you're happy, you can then just sort of like get rid of those bits ever so slightly. Okay, and then when we go next week, we'll start adding some tone and start to build in those little shapes and things around there. Okay, so we're going to use the same bubble effect again when we're doing our lips, because again, if you look at our lips, we have these lovely kind of parts where it goes down and up, and the same with the bottom bit here. So we're going to use the bubbles again. This time it's going to be the middle one, it's more of a smaller, flatter, squished bubble, and then this side is a bigger bubble, because you can see here your lips go up. And then again, looking at your bottom lip, so mine is here is much bigger, so I'm going to use a bigger bubble here and 2 bigger bubbles there. Obviously, if your lips are thinner, if you've got larger lips, then make the bubbles to go for the size of what the lips are going to be, and then you can use that then going around to then create the shape of where the bubbles will be. Okay, so then we can then bring it up and then bring it down to where they're going to be. All right, so you can start to see of where they are. I'm just going to change that bit into there, so just bringing it down and around. Okay, because it's about having those smaller bits of detail just to be in where they are. And again, it's just sketching them in at the moment. We can change it and add more of the detail and things later on. With your eyes, again, it's just sketching in that rough kind of shape. So when a lot of people draw eyes, we have a lot of eyes where people think they're like this shape, with kind of them floating in like that. If we actually look at our eyes, we can see that there is that little bit where we've got that tear duct, and so it kind of almost comes down to a point. So this is about also looking at what you're drawing. So we've already put in the lines to how far our eyes are going to go across. And so then I can then start to kind of think that, well, that goes in the middle of my eye. My eye's not sitting on top or below. It's going through that line. And then I can then use it, so it's almost like a straighter bit here with my pupil in there. This bit in here coming around. Then I've got that bit where I put people put eyeliner in around, and then my pupil coming in to be in there. All right. So then again in here, I can then bring that in around in here, bring that into there. So I can just see I've actually got that one too high. So I'm going to bring that one down, around in here, that's better. And then going around in there. So bring that tear duct down and around, eyeliner area, that one in down round in here, into there, and like so. And then you have those like little bits of the line for where it goes in underneath, so behind where you've got these creases. And then I'm just going to very lightly just put in where the eyebrows are going to be into here. All right, so I'm just very quickly drawn the shape of my face. Next week, I can then start building the tone, which will then bring in all the detail of the hair and how we're going to then show the bridge of the nose and the detail on the nose. And then obviously with this as well, we have the freckles, and then how do we start to add the tone within the eyes. All I want you to do currently is just to start, just to sketch in the face shape of your face, making sure all the proportions are in and everything's in. Please don't start doing hair bits like this or doing the eyebrows. We'll show you all that next lesson. What I want you to do is just making sure you've got those face shape proportions correct. Once you have, you can then start rubbing out your guidelines, rubbing out any bits that is not needed because it goes behind the hair. So for example, the faces, that goes behind, because then when we start adding our tone, we can then start adding all that detail in afterwards. Okay, so this lesson you should then complete with having proportions of the face all labelled, and then the initial sketch of your tonal drawing, where we're then ready to apply tone and texture and detail next lesson. Okay, thank you.